Here are the top stories for today, June 6, 2019. The Department of Health hails the passage of the tobacco excise tax bill for its potential to save up to 200,000 Filipinos. More Filipinos are reported to be working as of April this year. The United States is set to close its immigration field office in Manila this July. And the DOST provides additional livelihood support for displaced residents of Marawi City.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Department of Health lauded on Wednesday the approval of a bill raising the tobacco excise tax, saying such would save the lives of 200,000 Filipinos from the ill effects of smoking. In a statement, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III thanked the Department of Finance and Congress for their efforts to protect the health of every Filipino. Duque said the bill would decrease smoking prevalence to 20% by 2023 and would help fill the 40 billion peso funding gap to implement the Universal Health Care Law. The approved bill seeks an increase in excise tax for every cigarette pack from 45 to 60 pesos for the next 4 years. Duque added the DOH would work on the regulation of other sin products such as alcohol and e-cigarettes when the 18th Congress commences. About 70,000 local and overseas jobs will be made available in 22 job fair sites across the country on June 12. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, announced on Wednesday the Trabajo, Negosyo, Kabuhayan Job and Business Fairs to be organized in commemoration of the 121st Independence Day. The vacancies for local jobs for machine operators, production and factory workers, customer service representatives, call center agents, tailors, sales clerks, cashiers, delivery and service crew, and marketing officers. The job orders for overseas employment are for Germany, Japan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. The 2019 Independence Day Job and Business Fairs will be held in the following venues. More Filipinos have jobs as of April, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA. The number of employed Filipinos in April is at 42.2 million, representing an employment rate of 94.9%. This is a slight increase from 94.5% or 40.9 million tallied last year. The Cordillera Administrative Region tallied the highest employment rate, followed by Cagayan Valley, Davao Region, and Caraga. 58.5% of working Filipinos are in the service sector. NEDA Secretary Ernesto Pernia said the higher employment rate was brought by increased business activities in line with the campaign period for the Philippine midterm elections. He also cited the increase in consumer demand during summer and harvest seasons. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate stood at 5.1%, or an equivalent of over 2 million Filipinos. The Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARMM, posted the highest jobless rate at 9%, followed by Metro Manila at 6.3%. Malacanang is not alarmed by the slight increase in inflation recorded by the Philippine Statistics Authority last May. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said on Wednesday that the 3.2% inflation rate in May is still within the 2.8 to 3.6% target range of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Panelo assured the public that slight increases in prices are expected and no cause for worry. He pointed out that high consumption of food and alcoholic beverage during the campaign period, summer and El Nino phenomenon caused prices of prime commodities to shoot up. He said seasonal seasonal price hikes are beyond the government control and that inflation is likely to slow down again in the coming days. President Duterte eyes providing housing for Moros. Meanwhile, the ruling PDP Laban party prepares to field its bet for the House speakership. More on this and other news around the metro from Benj Bondok.
President Rodrigo Duterte is planning to meet with the National Housing Authority to present plans to give housing projects for the Moros, particularly the Tausug community. The president said on Wednesday that this is part of efforts to reach out to Moros and to pave the way for peace. He also vowed not to allow any form of brutality against them. Meanwhile, the leadership of the ruling party PDP Laban is set to meet with President Rodrigo Duterte regarding the selection of their candidate for the speakership race in the upcoming 18th Congress. The party has named Davao del Norte Representative Pantaleon Alvarez, Marinduque Representative Lord Alan Velasco, and Pampanga Representative Aurelio Dong Gonzales Jr. as possible candidates. Gonzales said the party will meet next week afterwards to finalize their decision. He said all party members will support whoever will be chosen to vie for the House speakership. In other news, the PNP expressed support for House Bill 7215, which calls for the creation of a DNA database system. Brigadier General Rolando Hinanay of the PNP Crime Laboratory said the standard booking process during investigations includes retrieving DNA samples, which speeds up the process of identifying suspects. Hinanay cited the murder of Christine Lee Silawan in Cebu, whose face was skinned off. The suspect was found through DNA identification. He said over 60 countries use a DNA database for investigations. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondok.
Still to come, the U.S. is set to close its immigration field office in Manila this July. The Department of Agriculture urges couriers not to accept meat deliveries from countries with African swine fever. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Like to emphasize the importance of RTVM. Ang RTVM po ang responsable sa pag-feed ng signal mula po dito sa Malacanang o kung saan lugar man na nasan si Presidente para makuha po ng mga commercial TV, radio stations para ma-feed at para ma-disseminate po sa publiko ang mga sasabihin po ni Presidente.
The United States Citizenship and Immigration Services is permanently closing its field office in Manila on July 5th. In an advisory posted on its website, the USCIS said its Manila-based office is no longer accepting petitions and applications for family visa, foreign adoptions, and citizenships. The U.S. Embassy in Manila will in turn assume responsibility for certain limited services previously provided by USCIS. Individuals who were previously assisted by the USCIS Manila field office are advised to check their website to file the necessary documents. The Homeland Security Department announced last March that it is planning to close its immigration offices outside of the United States, which included the Philippines, due to lack of resources. Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol has ordered all courier service companies to stop accepting canned meat and other meat products from countries affected by the dreaded African swine fever, or ASF, for shipment. In a memorandum, the DA also banned importation of live domestic and live pigs and their products coming from countries with cases of ASF. Furthermore, all arriving agricultural commodities from restricted countries are subject to immediate stoppage, confiscation, and destruction at the border of entry for proper disposal. Piñol said there is a need to cover other identified pathways for the entry and spread of the dreaded virus. He noted that courier services hold a high risk of introduction of ASF due to unregulated movement of products. Quarantine security have been intensified following the rapid spread of ASF in China and other Asian countries. Quarantine officers in Subic Court in Zambales on May 29 seized a refrigerated container from China which yielded meatballs stashed behind boxes of fish tofu. Industry leaders have called on the government to intensify its efforts against the rampant smuggling of petroleum products. Federation of Philippine Industries Chairman Jesus Aranza urged various government agencies to monitor oil shipments that secretly enter the country. Aranza particularly urged the BIR and BOC to be alert on technical smuggling, wherein importers underdeclare the value of goods entering the country. He says the country loses around 200 billion pesos in revenues annually due to increasingly sophisticated forms of smuggling, with petroleum being among the top products. The business group asked the government to strictly implement the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act and the anti-agricultural smuggling to deter illicit trading. The Bureau of Fire Protection in Region 11 planned to file charges against a man for interfering in a fire operation and assaulting its personnel on Sunday in Barangay Ilang, Tibungco, Davao City. The culprit is identified as Dennis Ompao, a resident in the area. Ompao tried to force the BFP driver to release the water even if the firemen were still trying to enter a small footbridge in the area. He also hit the BFP driver on the chest when the latter refused to do so. BFP said Ompao may have wanted to protect his house, although it was not among the 24 houses gutted down by the fire caused by faulty electrical wiring. A hospital in Ilocos Norte received an award for saving lives, particularly those who are suffering from antimicrobial resistance. And Cagayan de Oro Police Chief passed away in the midst of training. More on these and other stories from the provinces from Benj Bondoc.
In Ilocos Norte, the Department of Health Research Institute for Tropical Medicine gave 2 awards to the Mariano Marcos Memorial Hospital and Medical Center for its successful implementation of a national surveillance program in the fight against antimicrobial resistance, or AMR. These awards include Most Outstanding Sentinel Site and Best Hospital Report for 2018. In 2018, the World Health Organization estimated that around 700,000 people die of AMR complications, and it is projected that 10 million people will die due to this by 2050. In Cagayan de Oro, the city government here has expressed condolences to the family of Colonel Nelson Aganon, who passed away Tuesday afternoon. Cagayan de Oro Mayor Oscar Moreno confirmed that Aganon died of motorcycle accident in relation to a police training. Aganon's remains will be brought to his hometown in Nueva Ecija. In Davao City, an exhibition and film screening of The Bird of Prey opened on Tuesday at the SM Annex to kick off the Philippine Eagle Week celebration. This is part of the awareness and education campaign aimed at the conservation of the Philippine eagles, which are considered endangered species. Dabaweños are encouraged to learn more about the Philippine Eagle and watch the free movie screening on June 12 at Cinema 3. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondok.
Up next, the PNP says the recent celebration of Eid-el-Fitr all over the country was generally peaceful. The DOST provides additional livelihood support for displaced residents in Marawi City. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Ang Japan ang isa sa pinakamalaking trading partner ng Pilipinas. Nandito si Pangulong Duterte sa Tokyo, Japan para dumalo sa Nikkei Conference on the Future of Asia at para sa bilateral meeting nila ni Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Bukod dito, nakipagpulong din ang Pangulo sa mga negosyanteng Hapon para hikayatin pa silang mamuhunan sa Pilipinas. Nasa mahigit 20 business agreements ang nilagdaan dito at inaasahang 300 bilyong piso ang halaga ng investment na may huwi ng Pangulo mula sa biyaheng ito. Mula sa investment pledges na ito, nasa 80,000 naman ang mga mabibigay na trabaho para sa mga kapwa nating Pilipino.
In the next few years, we anticipate increased trade and investment flows because of the strong momentum generated by decades of deep economic cooperation. More than build, let us work together to grow our economy. Before I make my last statement, may I just assure you that during my time, I said there will be no corruption. And every Japanese investor in my country, however small or however big, I can assure you that if there is any complaint regarding hindrances, obstruction, or outright corruption, let me know. And you can ask an audience with me in 24 hours, and I will talk to you. And just let me know what your problem is, and we will kill that problem. I place my honor in what we promise to our partners, especially the Japanese and the Japanese people.
The Philippine National Police says yesterday's celebration of Eid-el-Fitr was generally peaceful. PNP spokesperson Bernard Banak on Wednesday said no untoward incidents were recorded throughout the country. In Mindanao, there were particularly no reports of illegal use of discharge of firearms. PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde earlier called on Muslims not to use firearms to celebrate Eid-el-Fitr. Albayalde reminded everyone that the COMELEC gun ban remains in effect until June 12. Major General Antonio Parlade Jr. of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, says the Bakwit mural painted by artist Archie Oclos on the wall of a 14-story building in Malate, Manila, is deceptive as it is part of the communist rebels' propaganda to recruit additional cadres. While citing that it is artistically impressive, Parlade says the mural depicting efforts of indigenous peoples to survive despite the alleged violence caused by the invasion of military troops is just part of the lies and propaganda being disseminated by the CPP-NPA and its allies. He also scored the group for representing themselves as human rights advocates and defenders of the poor, but all they do is defend the rights of communist terrorists who have been killing IPs and hapless civilians not inclined to support their causes. The mural's subtle message, he said, is to arouse the sentiment of the youth and use that anger in mobilizing them to fight against the government. The CPP-NPA is listed as a terrorist organization by the United States, the European Union, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the Philippines. The DOST continues to support the rehabilitation of Marawi City as it provides livelihood opportunities for displaced residents. Among its latest efforts is to revive the city's weaving industry and provide additional equipment for farmers. Wilnard Barcelona has the story.
The Department of Science and Technology has intensified its efforts in providing livelihood programs for the internally displaced persons of Marawi City. DOST Undersecretary for Research and Development Dr. Rowena Cristina Guevara expressed the agency's commitment on Marawi's recovery during the project launching of Livelihood Program for Rehabilitation and Reconstruction of Marawi by DOST's Industrial Technology Development Institute.
Hanggat hindi nakakabangon, tutulong kami.
Guevara also emphasized that the agency has been providing a series of training and hands-on programs to the IDPs through its different offices. DOST ITDI has been providing technologies and training on personal care products, charcoal briquetting, herbal processing, and essential oil extraction to improve the quality of life of IDPs by utilizing indigenous resources for their sustainable livelihood. In partnership with the Smiles Foundation, the DOST also supported the IDPs in the town of Butig, Lanao del Sur with a corn mill facility. The Bayabao Poblacion Farmers Cooperative has already harvested 2,400 kilos from its 40-hectare corn plantation, earning 26,400 pesos per cycle. Other projects implemented by the Smiles DOST partnership include do-it-yourself bamboo shelter production for the said town and innovation support system and management strategies to vegetable production to farmers in the town of Pantar in Lanao del Norte. DOST has also partnered with the Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology to revive the handloom weaving industry in Marawi through the Maranao Collectible, a group of IDPs who create heirloom or langkit weaving. The DOST provides them with training, necessary materials, and handlooms.
So thankful of DOST because yung funding nila for the looms will provide more opportunities sa ating mga Maranao weavers.
Being a member agency of the Task Force Bangon Marawi Subcommittee on Business and Livelihood, DOST commits itself to providing sustainable livelihood to the IDPs. For PNA Newsroom, Wilnard Barcelona, Philippine Information Agency.
In sports, the San Miguel Beermen fell before the relentless assault of Northport Batang Pier at the PBA Commissioner's Cup on Wednesday night. Robert Bolick, Nico Elorde, and Sean Anthony combined for 4 of 5 three-pointers to break away from San Miguel in the second period as the Batang Pier bounced back from their loss to the Barangay Ginebra Kings. San Miguel was without key players Chris Ross and Terence Romeo, but Northport was playing minus Stanley Pringle, Ryan Arana, and Bradwin Ginto. Meanwhile, Chris Daniels and JV Casio led the Alaska Aces to roast Magnolia Pambansang Manok on their debut at the Commissioner's Cup. Daniels, Casio, and Chris Manchero set the tone for Alaska to snag a wire-to-wire victory over their last Governor's Cup Finals tormentor. Daniels had a game-high 23 points, anchored on a perfect 4 of 4 three-point shooting before sitting out the entire fourth period. Also playing major roles were Casio with 17 points, Jeron Teng with 12 points, and Simon Enciso with 11.
Same-sex marriage is a controversial issue in the Philippines. Giving members of the LGBTQ community the right to be recognized as a couple is not allowed by the Catholic Church and frowned upon by those who believe that only men and women should marry. The country also does not legally recognize same-sex unions, and a bill pushing for their rights and protection is pending in Congress. But more Filipinos seem to approve of same-sex unions due to the increasing awareness of the rights of the LGBTQ sector. For attorney Jesus Palsis, same-sex marriage is a legal issue that does not infringe on other people's rights and the Philippines is ready to accept such unions. But Rolly de los Reyes, board member of Pro-Life Philippines and an LGBT Catholic, says marriage is an inviolable institution in the Constitution and same-sex unions ignore this and natural laws.
Basta alam mo kung sino yung gusto mo talaga na makasal mo at walang asymmetry of power, hindi mo tinake advantage, hindi mo finorce, hindi mo winape, etc. Bakit hindi kayo pwede magpakasal? Dalawa kayong adults.
The first community that a child sees is the family. So kung wala siyang makikitang modelo ng lalaki at babae sa modelo ng tatay at nanay, that will endanger also the child itself. Don't push your morals on us.
Don't push your morals on us.
The same way.
Don't push your morals on us. Denying same-sex marriage.
But you're also pushing your morals on us by pushing it.
Should same-sex unions be allowed and recognized by law? Tune in to Pros and Cons streaming at the PNA Facebook page and every Friday 10 p.m. on PTV4.
The North Cotabato Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office has alerted residents living near creeks, rivers, and mountainous areas against possible disasters brought about by torrential rains. North Cotabato PDRRMO Officer Arnulfo Villaruz reported that some areas in the province, particularly the low-lying towns of Cabacan, Matalam, and Tulunan, have experienced knee-deep after torrential rains hit the province since Wednesday. Low-lying villages of Kidapawan City were also flooded as creeks and drainage canals overflowed. Villaruz said the PDRRMC and the Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Offices are checking and assessing the rivers, creeks, and mountains vulnerable to landslides before issuing alerts to the public. Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Here's another look at today's biggest stories.
The Department of Health hails the passage of the tobacco excise tax bill for its potential to save up to 200,000 Filipinos. More Filipinos are reported to be working as of April this year. The United States is set to close its immigration field office in Manila this July. And the DOST provides additional livelihood support for displaced residents of Marawi City.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.